South Africa, 60%, 30%, and they've got some bad things going on in South Africa. You know, we're paying them billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. The fake news ought to be looking at it. They don't want to report it.
Hello, my awakened Africans. By now, you've heard the news. President Trump has launched a global trade war, and Africa is directly in the crosshairs. This week, he signed a sweeping executive order imposing a 10% universal tariff on all imports into the United States. But some nations were hit even harder, and 20 of them are in Africa. Take a look at the jeans you're wearing. You might want to hold on to them a little longer. Why? Because Trump just slapped a massive 50% tariff on imports from Lesotho, a small African nation that happens to be one of the top suppliers of denim to the US. That's the highest tariff rate imposed on any country. But it doesn't stop there. That jasmine rice from your local African grocery store, the yams from Nigeria, they're all about to get a lot more expensive. Countries like Nigeria, South Africa, Botswana, and Mauritius are also facing steep new tariffs, some higher than 10%. Today, we're going to break down which African nations were hit hardest. We'll also ask the bigger question, what does this mean for the continent? And we'll explore whether this signals the beginning of the end for AGOA, one of the most critical US-Africa trade deals. But before we dive in, let me ask you this. If the stories we cover here on African Awakening matter to you, hit subscribe, tap the bell, and consider joining our membership or dropping a super thanks to support our mission. This is your platform, your stories, your voice, and trust me, we're just getting started. Breaking down Trump's tariff order. First, let's get to the basics. Trump's executive order invokes the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977, a law designed for national security crises to declare America's trade deficit a national emergency. His solution? A blanket 10% tariff on all imports, effective April 5th, 2025. Then, on April 9th, countries with what he calls unfair trade practices or large trade surpluses with the US face even higher tariffs. The 10% flat tariff, a blow to all of Africa. Before we discuss the hardest hit nations, let's talk about the 10% baseline tariff because, well, no African country is exempt. Here's why this is devastating. In 2023, Africa exported $32 billion worth of goods to the US, everything from agricultural products like yams, cocoa, and fruits to textiles, minerals, and light manufactured goods. Many of these goods previously entered the US duty-free under AGOA. Now, a 10% price hike makes them less competitive overnight. This affects jobs, investments, and consumer demand across the continent. Example, Kenya exported $600 million in goods last year, textiles, tea, even flowers. With a 10% tariff, Kenyan exporters may have to absorb the cost, leading to smaller profits, layoffs, and slowed economic growth. The same applies to Ghana, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Rwanda, and Senegal, all of which built industries around AGOA-backed US market access. Bottom line, a 10% tariff may sound small, but in global trade, where margins are razor thin, it's catastrophic. Now, let's look at the countries facing tariffs higher than 10%. Lesotho, 50% tariff, the highest in the world. With a population of 2 million, Lesotho's main export is textiles, including jeans and apparel. Currently, the US tariff on Lesotho stands at 99%. The impact? Lesotho's textile sector supports over 40,000 jobs, mostly women. A 50% tariff could collapse factories, increase unemployment, and devastate an already fragile economy. Madagascar, 47% tariff. The main export here is apparel and textiles, which also falls under the African Growth and Opportunity Act. The current U.S. tariff on Madagascar stands at 93%. This impacts over $700 million in exports, putting them at risk. Factories operating on thin margins may shut down, leaving thousands jobless. Mauritius, 40% tariff. Key industries include textiles and financial services. The current U.S. tariff on Mauritius is 80%. This would deliver a major blow to its export-driven economy. Other affected nations include Botswana with a 37% tariff, Angola at 32%, Libya at 31%, Algeria at 30%, South Africa also at 30%, and Nigeria at 14%. So, if the US is willing to hit some of Africa's most trade-compliant economies with these rates, what does that say about the future of US-Africa trade? Now, let's talk about AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act. Established in 2000, AGOA gave duty-free access to the U.S. market, helping create more than 300,000 jobs in Africa. It supported billions in non-oil exports like apparel, auto parts, and more. But now, Trump's tariffs effectively nullify AGOA's benefits. Why? If African goods face 10%, 30%, or even 50% tariffs, what's the point of AGOA? This move bypasses Congress, undermining a trade deal that's been in place for over 20 years without any warning. The message: U.S. market access is no longer guaranteed even for allies. Africa must rethink its dependency on U.S. trade policies. This isn't just about tariffs, it's about trust, stability, and Africa's economic future. Possible pathways. 1. Strengthen intra-African trade. Leverage the African Continental Free Trade Area, or AFCFTA. 2. Diversify export markets. Shift focus to the EU, Asia, and regional trade. 3. Boost local industries. Reduce dependency on raw material exports. 4. Renegotiate trade terms. Demand mutually beneficial agreements. Final question. Should Africa fight to save AGOA, or is it time to walk away and build a self-reliant trade system? Let me know in the comments, and let's discuss. That's it for today. If you found this breakdown valuable, subscribe, share with your network, and join the conversation. This is African Awakening, your voice, your stories. We're just getting started. Until next time, take care.